or they're changing payroll providers, because you kind of hear the same thing. Payroll's like insurance. You want to get the best rate, you change every year.
Yeah,
So
sure,
people
sure.
people are always upgrading. And with how the market is changing and what these systems offer now, it's more than just timekeeping, right? Everyone wants a all-in-one solution where they can recruit, onboard, keep track of employees, and then their HR documentation, right? So I just want one system to handle everything. And Swipeclock has been working very hard. So we've been around since the late 1990s, and we were one of the first
Okay.
companies that introduced cloud-based timekeeping. So we've been doing it a very long time. The timekeeping side is phenomenal. You won't find a better system for the cost. But then we've added more of the HR side of things. So document storage and secure file sharing. The onboarding component, especially right now with COVID, is, our offices may be closed, but we're still hiring. So how can we digitally onboard new hires? So we've got a way to do that, and it all just works together, which is really cool.
Where are we finding you, Nate? Where, if you don't mind my asking, we're in Watsonville, California, which is kind of the south end of Northern California.
Uh-huh.
Where are you located?
We're headquartered in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but then we've got a lot of road warriors, and I think we've got offices. I think we've got two more offices back east. I think we've got one in like North Carolina and somewhere on the East Coast. I think it's above my pay grade, but they don't really tell me, right? I just work here. So.
Hey, not for long, man. Not for long. All right. Well, Sarah, hopefully you've had a chance to get some coffee. This is one of our earlier starts. Nate, you're in the same time zone, so if you guys are ready, we're ready to rock and roll.
Yes, we are ready.
Okay, let's see here. So I do have some notes. You guys use Paylocity for payroll, is that correct?
Yeah, we currently use Paylocity, and for the time and attendance portion, we've had for quite some time now a custom designed system, custom coded, written in the old Fox Pro programming language. So that's a standalone system. So Sarah and her team, Stephanie and Aida, are using both systems every week to process payroll. We process payroll weekly.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so what's the difference between the two systems? Do they focus on different aspects, or is it just different parts of the company?
They do focus on different aspects, not by choice. That standalone system that we've had for a long time has been traditionally how we've managed rolling up our time and attendance for in-house payroll processing. About a year ago, we started down the process of trying to streamline, the amount of workflow required to process payroll. So that's when we started exploring options and brought in Paylocity, with the ultimate intention being they would be able to also handle the time and attendance and, to streamline it, take it from A to Z. Definitely had some hiccups with that implementation, which they've been very upfront about. Their failures. So we, realized that it hasn't gone the way we imagined it would. So rather than throwing good money after bad, really, we're just trying to explore our other options, see if, hey, maybe we do continue down the path with Paylocity and we invest more time and resources into it.
Sure.
Or maybe we approach this from a different perspective. So just in the interest of being as straightforward and upfront as possible, Nate, we're engaging all of our options, really. Some of those one-stop shop companies like you mentioned before, like the ADP, Baycoms of the world. Mm-hmm. And you were recommended to us from a friendly company, not geographically close to us, but similar kind of industry.
Okay.
and they utilize Swipeclock, so that they recommended you as a solution to the time and attendance portion. So that's how we found you, just that word of mouth. And so what we're trying to do is really see, okay, look, our immediate pain point is the time and attendance. We're not extremely happy with the payroll processing yet either, but it's, you know, we feel like if we can at least solve the time and attendance part, it may help mitigate some of the headache with the payroll part. And, you know, if we feel like that's maybe too complicated, then we'll really think about one of those A to Z systems.
Absolutely. So that being said, what are some of the things that keep you and your team awake at night with timekeeping and payroll?
I'd say having to ensure that the data is coming over accurately from our time system, and then just ensuring that we have allocated appropriate time for payroll processing, because we are running a side-by-side payroll. We just haven't been able to get away from running two systems at this point.
So of your workforce, I show here that you guys may have 500 plus employees. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay. How many of them are you processing in-house versus with Paylocity?
None of them. So in-house, we actually get the payroll all the way up to having to process the check. We just finalize that process without, of course, processing checks. And we are running everything through Paylocity. So we just have to ensure that those systems are closed out, because our old system is still somewhat acting as a partial system of record in some areas.
Okay. And as far as your employees go, are they hourly, or salary, mixture of both?
90% is hourly.
Okay.
Maybe closer to 95.
And the rest is salary?
Yes.
Okay. How are they using the timekeeping system now? Are you guys, I show here that you may be using a piece of hardware with proximity cards?
So we have timekeepers who are 100% responsible for doing mass scheduling for the employees. So the employees aren't necessarily touching anything in the time system, with the exception of just receiving a receipt at the end of their shift confirming the hours that they worked. Timekeepers are responsible for ensuring that they're working with the shift manager to ensure that they're capturing the appropriate schedules in the system.
So your timekeepers, they are just monitoring the staff and then sending
Yes.
out a report saying, hey, Bill, you worked 6.34 hours today. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially it's just a time slip that is posted at the end of the shift for each employee, and then once that gets posted, the receipt prints for the employee, and they're sent on their way with that confirmation.
Okay. Are those same individuals, did you say that they are creating schedules as well?
Yes, essentially they're managing a schedule in the system.
And is that done through the secondary timekeeping system that you have now with Paylocity, or is that a third-party system?
It's done with our in-house system. So without our in-house system, we would not be surviving. That system is what allows us to send the import file for payroll to Paylocity.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this right now. Getting or exporting the data out of our system is going to be extremely simple. So I know that may be a big concern of yours now, but we can alleviate that with just a few simple clicks. Our system is very expansive as far as the reporting capabilities go. So if there isn't a report already built in there and you get 19 of them stock that will retrieve the information that you want, we can give you the option to build custom reports by combining multiple aspects of different reports. Or we could take it one step further, and for one-time fees, nothing egregious, we can design custom reports just for you that we would build. You would pay a one-time fee for us to customize it, and then it's there available in your list of reports, so you don't have to run it each time or create it each time. So as long as we are capturing the information, reporting on it is very, very simple. Getting it over to Paylocity is extremely simple because Paylocity is a partner of ours. And so they use a payroll platform where we have file formats already designed. So whatever report you decide to run at the end of each week to process payroll, we're just going to provide you with a file format style or name that you're going to save that report into, and then email it to your point of contact at Paylocity, and they're going to be able to import it directly into their platform. So it will literally take you minutes to gather the data. What may take a little bit longer is how or what your process is to review that data. Now, the system is accurate. Everything is all cloud-based, and there's a number of different ways that we can actually record the time, right? So there's an array of different clocks that employees can use, whether it's a piece of hardware, biometrics to be more secure, browser-based clocks, so tablets or computers with IP restrictions, or even mobile apps with location management features, so pairing it with Google to record their location. Doesn't matter which clock they use, all of that information is going to be transmitted in real time to a manager's portal. Now in that manager's portal, you can have different levels of access. So you can be an admin and you can see every employee and you can see all of their punch data. You can run reports, you name it. You could also delegate to different departments or different managers and give them just a group of employees to manage their time cards. So at the end of each week, by the time you go in and look at it, your respective managers have already done all the legwork. They've reviewed time cards. They've put their stamp of approval on it. And you're just doing a quick glance. And then you're running a report and sending it over. So this will streamline your process to a T. As far as being able to track, monitor, create schedules, put preventions in place, have alerts or notifications go out, this system is 100% custom designed for you. It's not off the shelf. It's not one size fits all. We've got 50,000 plus clients. No two accounts are the same. They're all different. And I could literally talk till I'm blue in the face for the next 10 hours on what this system can do, but that's no fun. I don't want to do that. So the goal of this call today is to establish where your pain points are and how this system can tackle those pain points so that you can spend minutes instead of hours when you're ready to process payroll. If you need to track your overtime better, if you need more accountability to go back onto the employees, if it's visibility, if it's engagement, we can cover each one of those bases for you. So I just need to know, like, what are your main areas that you guys need to focus on? Of course, it's data, accuracy, that's no problem. Allocating time for payroll, we can streamline your process. So really, how do you guys envision this system working for you? How do you want your employees to engage as far as recording their time? Do you want them to start punching a clock? Or do you want...
A good question we were asked was, how would this look in our ideal world?
Yeah.
So at the risk of sounding like a recording. Sarah, Stephanie, and Aida, I'm going to repeat that for Nate's benefit. It'll take a few minutes just to describe, but this would be kind of how we would, hopefully envision what a day would look like for one of our employees.
Perfect.
Which is essentially what we do is we process fruits and vegetables for food service and retail clients. So if you've ever had anything at McDonald's or Jamba Juice that has strawberries in it, we procure those strawberries. We don't grow them, but we have relationships with growers, and then we bring those strawberries in as we can, and then we'll slice, dice, add sugar, whatever they need, freeze it, and then those customers will bring it in as necessary. So we do that with strawberries. We process spinach. We just started Brussels sprouts yesterday. And at any given time, we can have a couple different commodities going on in our plant in different buildings. So right now, for example, today we're going to be processing sprouts in one building and strawberries in another building. So I'm Momazan. I'm an employee. I work in production. All I know is that I'm scheduled to come into work at Del Mar at 7 a.m. And so I come in, again, ideal world, with the realities we're all facing, some sort of touchless interface. I'm able to clock in. Maybe I swipe a key card in front of a kiosk and it automatically checks me in. The timekeeper lets me know I'm going to report to the strawberry line that morning. From 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm working on the inspection belt in the strawberry line. At 11 a.m., that our shift supervisor, production line supervisor, releases us for lunch. I don't do anything. I don't have to clock out for lunch. He's handling that. He's letting, whatever system that needs to be told know who went to lunch at what times. 11 a.m. to 11:30, I'm at lunch, and then I report back at 11:30 after lunch, and the timekeeper or the shift supervisor lets me know, hey, we're pretty much done with strawberries, not a lot of volume today. Let's please move over to the spinach line. So I say, okay, I moved to the sprouts line. So I moved to the sprouts building. 11:30 a.m. to 3:30 to 4 p.m. I'm on sprouts. So I've logged half an hour of overtime that day. We had a lot of sprouts come in. 4 p.m. rolls around. I do my ID card, clock out, again, touchless. And that's it for me. That's what it should look like, hopefully, for our employee. We want them to be able to focus on just the stuff that really matters, which is helping us out with the commodities that we're running. I don't think they should be responsible for having to code anything in terms of where they were working that day or registering any departmental transfers. So those two facets, the location coding and departmental transfer, those would be the responsibilities of our shift production supervisors communicating with our timekeepers. So let's say at 11:45 a.m. when everybody's returned from lunch, at some point our production supervisor has got to communicate to our timekeeper, hey, this is everybody that's here today working, and I moved these people over to the Sprouts building, and so can you just please move them over to the system, and they're going to finish out their shift there. They started up there at 11:30 a.m. and obviously he'll tell them what hours they went to lunch for. So because we process payroll weekly, there's a pressure crunch really on Stephanie and Aida for payroll processing. I mean, there's not a lot of time to go and track down, if hours don't look accurate, you really got to get that solved pretty quickly, because once a week is closed, and we try not to run Saturdays, Sundays, but it's just a reality of what we do. But once Monday rolls around, there's a time crunch to get that payroll process for checks to be distributed on Friday for the week prior. So it's difficult to track down any inaccuracies that are going to be present on those on the physical time cards we currently have. So that in this ideal world, those transfers that take place, those hours are getting reviewed daily, the day after, from supervisors, production supervisors. And then the first thing next week, that timekeeper is prepping a report that's 100% accurate because it's already been reviewed. The only day that may not have been reviewed is Friday or Saturday, whatever the previous day of the week was that we ran. And so then Tuesday morning or Monday afternoon, that report's ready to rock. It's uploaded to whatever payroll system we have, and payroll's processed. I will just make one more comment on, in my mind, and I'd like to get your expertise on this, Nate, given the world we live in now. I've seen the biometric fingerprint, I've seen the facial recognition, and then I haven't seen, but I've just heard about the wave of an ID card that will register in front of a kiosk. All of those are going to be second place to what we do right now, which is we hand a physical punch card to our timekeeper. I mean, that's as good as it gets, right? 100%. It'll work the first time. So all of the digital solutions are trying to mimic that in their own way. But what we're looking for is that whatever solution we find that's COVID friendly, that makes people feel comfortable to use, is seamless, consistent. I don't want to say fun to use, but what I don't want is that people are actively looking for ways not to use it, and instead they just want to go talk to the timekeeper and have the timekeeper talk them in and out because this thing is too complicated, or they don't like it, or it takes just too long and it's wonky or whatever. But hopefully I answered your question, but in my mind, that's kind of how we're visualizing this to go.
Okay. Yeah, that was great. I do have quite a few questions because it almost sounds like it's a two-part system, right? You've got the employee interaction, and then you've got your supervisors and your timekeeping or your timekeepers interaction. And we can separate it out very easily. And there's ways that you would be able to use this system. So first and foremost, if we start at, I'll just address the clocks immediately. At this time, we do not have a touchless option. And that is not uncommon in the industry simply because it's a compliance issue. There has to be some type of recognition by the employee at the clock telling that clock what are they doing, right? We are releasing, let me see if I can find a photo of it. We have been diligently working since March to come out with a touchless solution. And I believe it will be available by the end of the year. And it will be a vision clock. I don't have all the details. In fact, I'm actually doing a training later on this afternoon, but it's going to be very similar to the model that's on your screen, which is an intelligent clock. So this clock can do more than just in and out punches, right? It will have a touchless option, meaning it's going to recognize your face, and I believe it's also going to have a temperature check system.
Oh, cool.
So how it gets around the compliance issue, I'm not quite sure about that. I can learn about it. But there are other clocks out there. You can find them. They are touchless. The cheapest one that I've seen is right around $3,000. Ours will be half the price of that. And it will probably offer much more.
What is the compliance aspect of that? Is that there's a legal mandate that when an employee is clocking in and out, they're like they must interact with something that lets them know what's affecting their hours, or I'm not exactly sure I understand what the compliance part is.
So with a touchless option, it leaves the door open to say, well, that's not what I wanted the clock to do. I didn't want to clock out, but the clock clocked me out, and because I didn't touch it, proved to me that I clocked out when I wanted to clock in. Or if it's a proximity clock, what if I walk to the bathroom and the clock reads my face or the card in my pocket and makes a decision for me? So it's a compliance issue of the employee has to specify what they're doing at the clock. Are you clocking in? Are you taking a break? Are you starting a lunch? Are you ending your day? And by them physically interacting with the clock and telling that clock what they're doing, it's 100% compliant.
I see.
So
Okay.
with everything that I've heard and what I've read, that's why there aren't any touchless clocks in the past, right? There just haven't been any available. The closest anyone's been able to get is either a proximity badge or a faceless, or not a faceless, but a facial recognition, but they still need to punch the clock. Some other systems will actually tie in a scheduling component, and they will have access into the building. So they'll also tie it into their security. So the security will let them in, it'll read their face as they walk by it. It'll coordinate with the security system, the timekeeping system, and their scheduling platform to say, okay, Bob arrived on time for his shift. According to the schedule, his lunch starts at 11:30. So as he leaves at 11:30, all three systems work together. It's going to recognize his face, and it's going to clock him out. He is scheduled to come back at 11:30. So as he comes back in, all three are going to align, and they're going to clock him back in. But what happens if he needed to leave early? Or what if he forgot something out at his vehicle and he were to leave that premises? So there's a lot more intricacies that go involved with the touchless option that border the compliance issues to leave the door open to fight more on the employee side, right? Like, I didn't want to clock out, but the clock clocked me out.
Mhm.
So, but
yeah, we have heard of an option where it's like voice activated, voice awake. Basically, you say clock in, and then combination facial recognition. So kind of thinking through how consistently used that would be, just given kind of our demographic here, which is we're really lucky. A lot of our folks have been with us for 3+ decades, and so they're very used to interacting with the timekeeper. So I just don't know how well received it would be. I could be, making much ado about nothing, but I just want to be. I think we all just want to be conscientious to folks who have been here for a long time, and that's why we're spending so much time thinking about what that solution would look like and how easy to use it would be.
I think that's great. I think it's a very good thought process to have, to be considerate of, well, it's going to work great for management, but how is it going to work well with our team, right? Because if they don't like it, they're not going to use it. They're going to constantly find problems with it, which in turn makes it harder for everybody. So I think that's great. Let me ask you this. Are you wanting employees to clock themselves in at all, or do you want the timekeepers to do it?
Sarah, what do we think about that?
That question somewhat stumbles me a little bit, just because ideally it really is dependent on the capabilities that we will be able to have. If we are able to actually have a solution where it is managed by employees, that would be ideal, right? But we have to have somewhat of a cost to be able to allow our timekeepers to, of course, be the reviewers and edit the data. Let me know if that answers your question.
Yes and no. So you could do both. Now, what a lot of our clients are doing is they want to use a piece of hardware, but they're conscientious of the COVID. So if they still need to use a piece of hardware, yes, you can get a clock that's both intelligent, which intelligent just means it can do more than in and out. It'll recognize when employees are in, when they're on shift, when they're on break, when they've returned. It can do department and job costing and time allocation if you need it to. But the most intelligent thing about it is just reducing the amount of mistakes. So a lot of clients are going to our mobile option for the interim until they can see what or how or what the new normal is going to be here in the next 6 months. So a lot of them are allowing their employees to use their own personal device to clock in and out. That way they don't have to touch a clock, they don't have to touch anything else other than their own device. They are pairing it with our location services with Google. So we want to be able to track their location, right? If we're giving you the ability to use your phone, we don't want you clocking in on the freeway when you're supposed to be at work. So we're going to enable location settings to monitor and make sure that you're at the right area. So each time they clock in and out, we can pinpoint their location with GPS through Google. And then we can also apply geofencing, which allows us to say, here's one fence around this building, here's one fence around this separate building. And if employees move outside that fence, we're going to be notified so that we can address it. We're not going to prevent them from clocking in because, one, that's going to create more work for management. They're going to have to go back and fix that mistake. But two, if an employee says, oh, I didn't have the ability to clock in, what time did you get here? They could give you inaccurate data of what time they arrived. So both have pros and cons. But that's what a lot of our clients are doing in the interim. But knowing that down the road they can add a clock once the dust kind of settles, you do have that ability. Now, everything is accessed online through the internet, portals, management portals, employee portals. And it's up to you guys who you give access to. So employees, their mobile phone also doubles as a portal. So we can turn the ability for them to clock in and out off, but they still have access to their own time card, so they can track their own time. Or you can turn that off and they don't have visibility. But in the terms of mistakes, inaccuracies, they can message management through this mobile app, through their time card. There's a notes section. I can go in there and send notes. Right? There's also the scheduling aspect. So if you guys did need a system that offered a scheduling component that worked in conjunction with timekeeping to show you, here's the schedule, here's what we want to happen, here's the timekeeping side, here's what actually happened, and have the data and the reporting to compare the two, we can set that up very easily. And then, of course, there's all sorts of intricacies and features that go along with that. So notifications, alerts, deviation reports. But it sounds like with your timekeepers, you may not need all of that features, right? Because they already have, or you guys already have a monitoring system in place. Okay. But if you guys offer paid time off and sick leave, they also have that right in their pocket. Is I want to request a day off. I want to see how much time I have off in what area. Here's how much sick time I have. Here's how much vacation time I have. And we design that all custom to how you award your paid time off so that employees don't have to bother management or a supervisor and say, hey, how much vacation time do I have? Well, go in your mobile phone and look, and then quickly submit time off requests that will let management be aware of who's submitting the request, the time they want off, if they've got enough available. And then as they approve it, it's going to populate across all time cards and schedules. So there's no question about who has what day off and if they've actually taken it or not. If you want to limit how the employees interact with the system, we can look at our managers portal. And this managers portal would be what your supervisors and timekeepers have access to. And you are able to set their visibility rights to a specific group or a specific department. But if those timekeepers, if they're sitting at a desk or if they've got a tablet, employees could essentially walk up to them and management could log their time right as the employee walks up and says, oh, hey, what time did you get here? Oh, you got here at 6:55 a.m. Okay, cool. I'm going to log you in. So employees don't have to do anything. They just have to walk up to the timekeeper. So you could cut out your employees' engagement completely if you wanted to. And then supervisors, if they are overseeing the timekeepers, they would be able to log in and see all of that data. And everything leaves a footprint in here. So I can hover over every entry and gather information. Was it manually entered in? If so, at what time? By what machine? Give me the IP address of the cell phone or the computer that was used. Or if employees are punching a clock, it'll give me the clock model or the location of that clock. If they use a mobile phone, you get this little green icon. And that tells me, one, that a mobile phone was used, but I can click on it, and it's going to give me information on that punch. The date, the time, as well as a physical address. But this is extremely accurate as long as I've got cell reception or I'm connected to a network. So I can actually see what building the employee is standing in. So there's a lot of different ways that this system can work, but the beautiful thing is it's not, we set it up this way, that's how you have to use it forever, right? We could set it up one way, try it out, see how well it works, see if it's well received by staff, and if it's not, change it. So at first we say, you know what, employees, you don't have to do anything. You just have to walk up to the timekeeper and let them know that you've arrived. You could even hand them a piece of paper or whatever your process is, and the timekeeper can log him in.
Do you know, Nate, if you have any clients near us?
I'm sure we do, yeah. We have a lot of clients in California. So much, in fact, that we've got pre-built rules in here just for California.
Sure, the kind of nuanced overtime rules. I would wonder if maybe I could ask you, if possible, to refer any customers that you might have that share either our industry or our workforce demographic, which is primarily Hispanic, Spanish speaking. And basically my first question to them would be, hey, how do they like it? Or what was the change like? Culture change, just attitude change to this. And that's not necessarily a question about Swipeclock's performance as a company, but to me, it's more a question of like proof of concept of where we would start. If that would be the biometric, if that would be the facial recognition, if that would be the other solution you were saying may be ready in a few months. So I'd be curious, that'd just be a follow-up kind of question, Nate. Obviously nothing super, there's no real time crunch on that, but maybe just something for a follow-up.
Yeah, we do protect our clients and their information. So
Okay.
It would take me a little bit of time because I would contact those clients first, see if they would be open to a conversation. Some are, some are not, and we would do the same for you if you guys end up being a Swipeclock client. But yeah,
Understood. Feel free to mention, particularly if it's within like a 30-mile radius of Watsonville, feel free to mention our company name.
Okay.
There's a solid chance, they would have at least been familiar with the name, so that may help. But yeah, just as convenient, not anything. There's nothing hinging on that, but it'd just be helpful if it was able to happen.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm sure we do, because our primary industries are construction, manufacturing, healthcare, and education. But this system will really fit anyone's needs. It just depends on what they want.
Sure.
And because of how customizable the system is, sky's the limit on what you can do, right? So whether it be the scheduling component, whether it just be the timekeeping system, yeah, we just need to decide how you want your employees to interact with the system. From there, how do we want your timekeepers to interact with the system? Do we want them to get engaged at all, or are they just reviewing information for accuracy? And that accuracy would come from the employees clocking in and out.
And I think that's a good segue. I was going to ask if perhaps next you could show us one of those intraday interdepartmental transfers. Like if I'm starting off in the Strawberry Building, and then I get transferred after lunch to the Brussels Sprouts Building, and the shift supervisor lets that information pass to the timekeeper. And in my mind, the timekeeper is kind of managing this system of punches and job site. How the timekeeper might input that change easily, that transfer easily into the system, so that he or she can see on a daily basis exactly what employees worked what hours and what locations.
Absolutely. So you've got all of your standard column fields, right, that we can't change on the time card. Those are all standard. But we can add as many additional columns, and we can label those headers whatever is relative for the information that we need to input. Now, these columns can be management facing only, or they could be employee facing. So if you ever wanted employees to transfer, whether they do this on a mobile phone, if they do it on the piece of hardware, when they, oh, I've got the wrong employee here. Let me log out real quick. There's just the ability to set what we call clock prompt. And it prompts the employee to give us information when they clock in, when they clock out, or they need to transfer throughout the day. So these questions represent those headers that you see on the time card. And we can give them selectable options, right? So we put the list of your sites, the list of your departments, the list of your manufacturing or your processes, so that they could make their selection as the employee. And then that's visible on their own time card. So we would see transfers. Let me go find one here. Right? What time they started, what time they transferred. And then if they're telling us, I started at this job and I transferred to that job, it'll actually specify where they were, where they're going, and how much time in between, right? So time allocation. It's the same for management. So as a timekeeper, if I'm looking at Phil Collins' time card here, I can see that when he's logging in, Phil is actually telling me what location and what job he's doing. If I am a timekeeper and I'm adding that time for him, I can click add to a new day, and I can put in what time he arrived, and then I can select what location, what job he's doing, or we can leave these open as a form fill. So I could literally type whatever I wanted. Okay. Now, once I save that information, if they need to perform a transfer, I just am going to hit the add button. and it's going to add another row. And then I'm just going to plug in the time that he moved, and I'm just going to select the new site and the new job that he's doing. And I'm just going to save that. And then our hours calculation is going to give us the difference between where he originally was, what time he left, and where he landed, and then the information to where he's going.
And I'm going to drill down a little bit here.
Yeah.
The pay rate there, let's say that he earns a different pay rate for tear out versus paint. Is that something that can be specified for a group of employees at a time, for a single employee at a time? Is that job description specific? Or is it, Phil Collins, this employee, his rate of pay is $20 an hour. So any job we choose, it's $20 an hour for him.
It's all the above.
Okay, it can be customized basically how you want.
Correct. So we could plug in his base rate, and then we would use triggers, right? We have to trigger the system to tell us when to pay him a different rate or to add on an additional amount. So by telling the system, site 13, he makes $20 an hour, but site 10, he makes his base plus an additional $5, we could tell the system to say, once you select site 10, we now know what rate to pay him. And that list can be pretty substantial, right? So we've got our punch categories here, which can represent different pay codes. But you've also got the selections for these different jobs. But our system does reach a limitation of how many pay rates can be input in the system per employee. And I believe that's 15 or
Okay.
20 total. Right? That's
I
not
don't
per
think
job.
we would have quite that many. And you could edit something that was previously inputted, right? Like a base rate, obviously every year could be adjusted so that, you're only using 3 per year, but you can use the same 3 codes per year. They can just be edited. Okay.
And it gets a little, I don't want to say it gets a little tricky, but we need to be careful because we want the primary focus to be timekeeping. When we have Paylocity involved, they are going to have all of the wages and all the earnings in their system set up correctly. So in the event that you went in here and changed it, we align all of these codes on the back end. We call it mapping. So that when site 12 or whatever site is selected and we push that information over to Paylocity, we align the mapping.
I see. So you would actually draw that information from when you implement and connect to the Paylocity system we've got in place.
It would be a coordinated attack, so to speak, right?
So if you change a wage rate for an employee, let's say their pay is bumped up $1 an hour, and we make that change in Paylocity, effective date October 9th for Phil Collins. Right when we schedule that employee for October 9th on whatever line, their base pay rate reflects the new rate.
Correct. And then we would need to change it in here as well, because another thing to consider is I don't know if Paylocity has an integration or not. That's something I could check on. Some of our integrations, they talk directly to payroll. So when you add a new employee, they're pushed into our system along with some of the fields in the profiles. So they'll push over like the payroll generated code, their email address, and then maybe some data fields, right? Departments, employee type. And then same with some of the earnings, right? But that's a little bit lighter as far as integrations go, because it's, in my opinion and from my experience, it's better to keep timekeeping and wages separate as much as we can, and then just use the mapping. So if I were to come in here and run a report and I wanted to show wages, so just real quickly, if I wanted to run like a summary report, I could show wages and dollar amounts for all my employees. This is not going to align with payroll because it's gross and not net. So it doesn't take into account deductions or anything like that. So without keeping that in mind, if I'm, dealing with payroll and I'm looking at that same employee, I don't want to confuse myself on, okay, well, is timekeeping accurate or is payroll accurate? So we want to be careful, but we can set it up so that it's accurate across the board. No problem. We have clients do it every day.
Yeah, I guess I just want to, the reason I'm spending time on this subject is we do want to place some emphasis on, because we do a lot of transfers. It's fairly frequent for us to have one employee within a shift work in a couple different locations. Mm-hmm. And because they work in a couple different locations, earn multiple rates of pay. And so because of that, Stephanie, maybe I could ask you how I don't want to use the word easy, but how seamless is it to go in for an employee and adjust their pay rate? Is that a pretty straightforward process in Paylocity, I mean?
Amazon, she just stepped away. It's pretty seamless to pay rate, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so the reason I ask that, Nate, is really that's where a lot of our pain points have been, is just making sure that people's rate of pay is accurately reflected.
Sure. And
capturing all the different departmental transfers we've got. So once you kind of lay it out, I agree with you. Keeping it separate is probably a good idea. Time and attendance should just, as long as that accurately reflects where people worked for how long, we can figure out the rest from there.
So what I always recommend, because I deal with clients in similar situations all the time, is we don't put the wages or the earnings in timekeeping, but we make sure that when we map it, let me go to just a time card, and let me edit one of these. We just map it because in payroll, you've already got all of your pay rates associated for each different department and location, so that however you're recording it now, once that information is sent to payroll, it doesn't matter if there's 10 transfers in a day, as long as we've been accurate on what side or department they went to, no problem. We do the same thing here, right? So as long as we can accurately represent that site 6 equals this in payroll, we're good. As long as site 9 is accurately mapped, we're good. So it doesn't matter how many departments or wages, we just map them together so that it's easy on the timekeeping side and that it aligns correctly in payroll.
Okay, great. Go ahead and proceed, please.
I don't know what else we were taking a look at. Well, that was me addressing your question on the timekeepers doing a department transfer.
There, I do apologize. We have a call that we need to get to at 9 o'clock. Amazon, do you feel comfortable?
Sure. Yeah, I've got time. So I'll stay on with you, Nate. Yeah, and Sarah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nate.
Okay, thanks,
yeah,
guys.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Bye.
So yeah, I've got about 20 more minutes here. I know that we're right at time. What else can I show you? Because a lot of this is going to be dependent on how we set it up, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I would like to see, so let's just say we've got everybody's hours inputted for the week, and then that the payroll processing portion would just be, if you're implemented with Paylocity, then is it just like you kind of submit a batch to Paylocity or something like that? You know, the actual payroll processing portion of it.
Well, that is something that, again, it's yes and no. So Paylocity is a partner of ours, and I don't manage their account, but I could find out what platform they utilize. And it's either going to be a direct integration, meaning the information syncs, and then at that point, you know if you have access into a Paylocity portal for payroll that they
Yeah,
go into.
we do, but basically right now they require a CSV upload, and so that'll be how they process payroll. And the information for each employee is going to be contained in that CSV file. So I would imagine, I mean, your system could probably just generate a CSV for a date range for everybody and kind of go to town from there.
Absolutely. So all of these reports are standard, and they're all very simple. They just show different information and allow us to filter and get more granular on what we need to find. But the summary report allows us to filter out and find very specific information for a date range or a customized date range. And then if we did want to show wages or dollar amounts or signature lines, you know, all that is custom. Then we select the employee data set. Is it all employees? Is it specific employees? Locations, departments? And then do we want to include additional data fields? So if we've gone in there and we've added locations or departments and we want to see those transfers for time allocation. So tell me how much time a specific employee worked on a specific department. Oh, to go select different date paid. There we go. There we go. There we go. We can actually see, okay, for this department, here's how many hours were allocated in your strawberry production or your Brussels sprout production at this site and for this specified date range. So we can break all of that down. If we need to get more granular, we've got labor reports, we've got detailed reports, and again, it's just, what do I want to see, right? What do I want this information to show me? So is it just hours? Or do I need departments, locations, and everything broken down?
Right.
Another really cool thing that I like is on the time card itself, I can generate, let me go back a pay period. I can generate a PDF of each individual time card. And it gives me everything specifically in detail. Ins, outs, transfers, overtime, and then everything is consolidated. So there's no arithmetic, right? It'll show hours worked, paid time off, everything just on one view.
Great. No, that looks great. Just to kind of close the loop then on some of the nuts and bolts info, all of this looks fine to me. What does the typical implementation timeline look like? You know, 3 to 6 weeks, 4 weeks. You know, what do you usually see for your clients?
Usually between 2 and 3 weeks.
2 and 3. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not how many employees you have. I've got a spreadsheet that gathers basic information from employees that you can quickly just generate from Paylocity and send that over to us. And it's a complete white glove service. So you will work with myself as the sales rep, but you will also be assigned a dedicated implementation rep. And he will first reach out to you once I provide him with some preliminary information, and he will schedule a kickoff call with you and your team. And that kickoff call traditionally lasts anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes. And that is reviewing basic information, right? Your time zone, your work weeks, your hours, and then simple items like, do we want to do any type of rounding rules if clocks are being used, right? What types of clocks are being used? Are we setting up the mobile app, the web clock? Do we need to activate a piece of hardware? Who are your supervisors? Who's going to have what access into the system? So that's just a call to gather information so we can set up your account completely for you.
Okay.
The second
And
call.
Sorry, go ahead, please.
I was going to say the second call is a training. So once we build your environment, similar to what we've done today, we will train you and your managerial staff in your own environments. And we show you how to turn features on or off, how to run reports, just so that you feel comfortable and confident before we roll it out to everybody. And we record all these calls, we provide them to you, and we do provide ongoing support as well. Okay, so after the training call, we decide we would like to start January 1st. Once you start, you then move into our customer excellence program. And that is a 6 to 8 week follow-up program, just ensuring that the system is automated, everything is set up correctly. We address any questions that may arise. And if we need to fine-tune anything in the account, we address it in that first 6 to 8 week time frame when you first launch. So the goal is to streamline it, make it simple, make it easy, and make sure that you guys have a good experience with Swipeclock.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, we're really sensitive to that now too, just with kind of with what I said earlier about how our experience with Paylocity went. It didn't exactly go how we had hoped it would.
Right.
So that's why we're really very careful. I'm kind of like Oprah with our HR department. This is really my getting involved in it for the first time, so a lot of this is very new for me.
What's your role over there?
I actually am our logistics manager, so we have a pretty small admin team, so we all wear a lot of hats. But
sure.
Yeah, analytics, finance, our supply chain. That's typically kind of where I'm at. But also kind of just our part-time IT guys. So the kind of new system integration stuff, I'm really just lending an ear to the HR department, maybe kind of giving them my gut feel on how this stuff would go and perhaps what we need. They're really the ones who would be working with it on a day-to-day and managing, kind of owning the responsibility for it. But I guess we should just cover off quickly, what does the pay structure look like, or the fee structure look like, were we to implement time clocks and ongoing service with you guys?
So the cost structure is a cost per employee each month. And there's no annual contracts. It's a pay-as-you-go type service, so it's a SaaS program. The cost per employee each month is $4, and that includes everything that we've looked at besides hardware. Hardware would be a one-time purchase, and for the type of clock that you would like, you are going to be between about $1,000 and I don't have official pricing on the touchless option yet, but I was told it'll be right around $1,300 to $1,500 per clock.
Okay.
Okay. Those clocks are just a one-time purchase. They have a limited lifetime warranty on them, and we handle that RMA process, but they are workhorses, right? They're just designed to work, especially in production facilities, right? As far as the implementation costs go, you just have one-time setup, implementation, and training fees, and they are nothing egregious. You're going to be right around $500, $750 one-time setup, and that includes, account setups, the 6-week customer excellence program, trainings, and that does include ongoing support into the future. And then because the system is cloud-based, we constantly update, roll out new features. We have zero downtime because we have 24/7 clients that operate, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So when we do roll out updates or whatnot, you receive notification, and it's traditionally done at like 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning for a couple of minutes. So very little, if to no downtime. If you do need something changed down the road, you would contact our support team. They have an under 2-hour contact, response time, which is amazing. There's a ticket system online that you can access through your portal. You just have a help center. And the help center has 2 purposes. So there is a searchable library on here. So the system can be used in 2 ways. It can be used as we help you get it set up, we'll train you on everything, and you can set it and forget it. If you need something changed, reach out to us and we will do it for you. 95% of the time, there's no cost to do that unless we needed to redesign like a custom PTO policy or build you a custom report, right? Just you'd have a one-time fee to do that. Some clients like to be more hands-on, where we give them administrative rights and they use this library and they can come in here and search for anything, right? Mobile. And it pulls up related articles on how to turn the feature on or off, how to apply it to employees, instruction videos, PDFs.
Very cool.
So if you guys are more hands-on, you've got this resource here to make changes on your own within the accounts without dealing with Swipeclock support.
And what would, I just want to make sure I've got it accurate. So the $4 per employee monthly, and then the hardware is a one-time purchase. The setup and implementation, that's $750, or just the setup and then implementation is kind of separate?
No. So you'd be between $500 and $750 total for setup, implementation, and training.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
And then, like you said, if we needed any report kind of adjusted, that would just be, whatever nominal customization fee.
Yeah. So some clients, they don't need a whole lot of reporting capabilities. The reports that we provide to you, they are pretty expansive. So I would be surprised if you guys did need one built. But we can give you access to the custom report options right here. And this allows you to pick and choose out of all these reports and kind of build your own. And then you can label it, select an employee group. But if you do need something that you can't create on your own, most of our reports, from what I've seen, typically cost between $150 and $300 one-time fee, and that just depends on what you find. Yeah, so it's, in my opinion, in talking with other clients, our pricing is nothing egregious, right? It's not huge. I mean, I've heard of some implementations being thousands of dollars. So.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, I really appreciate the time. We'll certainly provide some feedback one way or another. Like I said, we're not totally sure. We haven't met with everybody we're planning on meeting with yet.
Sure.
We do a couple more to go. But my plan is to, I'm trying to be upfront with everybody.
No, it's great.
Part of that is because we don't exactly know where we're, how this is all going to go for us. So what kind of path we're going to take. So I'll certainly loop back. You won't hear radio silence, but it will just take us some time to kind of figure that out. We'll probably meet together as a team tomorrow and just talk through our options. By late tomorrow, we should have met with everybody. At least that's on the list currently, and then just kind of go from there. So hopefully sometime next week, maybe just a week from now, hopefully I'll be able to provide some feedback one way or another, Obviously, if you have any questions for us, we're always available. I'm always available via email, so feel free. But other than that, really appreciate the detailed walkthrough today.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I appreciate the honesty. Were you guys looking for like a 2021 timeline start date, or were you hoping to get something implemented before the end of the
Yeah,
year?
we're highly motivated to
Okay.
get going. I mean, as soon as we find an option we like and commit as a team to that, then we're going to get going on it. What we're running up against is our next heavy production season. So probably through February, we will be basically on autopilot. But once March rolls around, then the season starts to ramp up. So at that time, we start to bring in quite a few more employees. Right now, we're really at about maybe 150 to 250.
Okay.
But once March rolls around, we'll have an additional 200 to 300 folks.
Oh, wow.
So it's just going to be very impactful for Sarah, Stephanie, and Aida to try to implement something, sometime between March through September. With all those people, just processing payroll is going to be a full-time burden.
Oh, yeah.
It's usually a little more than full-time.
Yeah.
So in our current system. So if it wasn't able to happen before Feb, we'd probably have to shelve it until this time next year. So that's why we're pretty motivated right now to isolate an option and try to get going. But if not, I'm also notorious for dragging my foot and really analyzing and really just carefully considering the impact of stuff. So we're totally content to wait a year. I know that's not what everyone wants to hear, but just realistically for us, that would really help allow us to think through the implementation process and do whatever we needed to do on the setup portion as well very carefully. But
absolutely,
that's kind of what we're thinking. If it couldn't happen before Feb, we'd shelve it. But the hope is that we can get something done, a choice made in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and then an implementation done before February is completed.
And that is 100% possible, even with the rush of business that we see. So what I will do is I will throw together a DocuSign cost proposal. I will also send you the information that I have on that touchless clock.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But I'll put some other options on there. So I'll throw together just a cost proposal, and you could see what the total would be should you want to go with hardware and everything else. Once you guys do make a decision, if you do land on Swipeclock, we have been doing this for so long that we can move extremely fast. Typically what we see, what creates lag time, is we understand that you guys are extremely busy. You've got full plates. So it's just coordinating calendars to get the information we need to build the account and then get you trained. But once that is done, yeah, we could have you up and going by, Thanksgiving, if we had a decision made by the end of next week. So we can move very quick on this for you.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's great.
All right. I will get you the information, and then, we'll just touch base here in about a week. And if you guys have any other questions, I did record this session, so I can throw in a copy of that for you. Don't hesitate. Reach out to me. I'm happy to help any way that I can.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Nate.
Okay, Amazon. Nice chatting with you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.